Hey guys, Eric Temple here, and what I'm going to talk about really quick today are 3 cues that I think might be limiting your deadlift and your squat potential to maximize your strength in those 2 lifts. So the 3 cues are spread the floor, screw your feet, or corkscrew your feet into the floor, and then knees out. Okay, so these are some good cues that we give people to feel tension in their hips a little bit better, and especially in terms of the cue spread the floor and screw the feet into the floor as well. So what I'm going to talk about first is the sumo and then wide stance squat, and why spread the floor might not be the best option and might be limiting your squat or deadlift. So spread the floor is a cue that's been used for a while now. I think it's a good cue in terms of getting people to feel their hips a little bit more, so tension in their hips. So think of a crack down the middle of the floor, a piece of tissue paper underneath of your feet. Think about ripping that piece of tissue paper in half with your feet. You should feel the sensation of the outside of your foot going through the outside of your shoe to open up your hips, or to feel your hips a little bit better. But I think that we can do that better by just getting it at the hip instead of by ways of the foot. So why I'm saying this is because if you're constantly thinking out with the feet, all right, so you're thinking like horizontal forces or like in particular lateral forces when you're spreading the floor, the last thing you're thinking in your mind is push through your feet. Okay, so I can spread the floor all I want, but if I'm grabbing the bar and I don't push, the weight's just not going to move. So the limiting factor, of course, now is like how you apply force vertically into the floor. If you're not thinking down to push weight up, then you're limiting yourself in the lifts. So instead of getting it by way of the foot, get it by way of the hip. So imagine getting the upper part of your inner thigh on the left and right side further away from each other to go down and get the bar. That's going to open up your hip and put your feet into a good position where you don't now have to worry about your feet. You're just worried about driving your foot through the floor to push that weight up. That's either in your hands or on your back. So the same thing in a wide stance squat, thinking about getting it from the hip instead of the foot, and it will automatically put your foot into a better position. Okay, guys? The next one is a squat for corkscrew your feet. This is also a cue that's used for some people to get their knees out in the conventional deadlift when we see knee valgus. So I think knee valgus occurs because of 2 things. The load's too high for the body to actually handle. So what happens is if you apply force, the weight's too heavy, the knees might cave in. So first off, the weight might be too heavy, or you're thinking this way too much and laterally that you're not applying force into the ground, and then when that weight feels heavy, bam, your knees cave in. So what goes out must come in terms of knee position under heavy load, okay? Unless you're applying force the right way. So corkscrewing your feet into the floor, imagine turning your right foot to the right, left foot to the left, but not moving them, all right? Feel tension in the hips, but again, I think you can get this better by way of the hip. If you're constantly thinking rotational and then lateral when you're squatting down and squatting up, you're missing out on down to drive weight up. So again, maybe think about descending into the outside half of the middle of your foot and then drive through the middle of the foot instead of thinking corkscrew, and then the same thing on the way up. If you have 600 pounds on your back and you're going to squat and you're thinking this with your feet, I'm sorry, but you're not doing yourself justice. So instead, think descend into the middle part of your foot, outside half of your foot, and then drive through the foot. Easy as that. When you conventional deadlift, same thing. If you're thinking this way, you're limiting vertical force production. So we definitely want to think down. And when people drive their knees out, again, the last thing we're thinking is down. With our feet, we're thinking out, and then we're not maximizing our strength potential there. That's when we tend to see knee valgus, when people push out, and then when they push through their feet, it goes right back in. So instead, start maybe with your feet a little bit closer, and then push really hard through the middle of your foot and the heel of your foot, okay? If you ask an elite powerlifter, someone who's really strong in the conventional deadlift, if they push their knees out or corkscrew into the floor, they're gonna look at you like, no, I don't. I just think about grabbing the bar, and then they push through their feet to drive the weight up. So again, if you're trying to maximize your strength potential, maybe these aren't the best cues for you to think. Again, if you're in the sumo or wide stance, maybe think about getting it from the hip. That's going to put your feet into a better position, drive through your feet from there. In a squat, think descending into the outside half of the middle of the foot and then push through the middle of the foot. In the conventional deadlift, get your feet in a little bit closer. If your feet are out wide, your knees have nowhere to go but in. So start a little bit more narrow and drive through your feet. Easy as that, okay guys? So hopefully those tips helped out, guys. Thanks for listening.